The Say Something podcast is brought to you by amomentwithmorris.com and blackblueprints.com. That's blackblueprints with a Z.com. Here we are back again for another installment of the Say Something podcast.
Say something, say something, say something.
Episode 16 for you. Get your own piece.
Man, we ain't up to like 50 yet?
Not yet, but we get there. Take time.
Slow burn, slow process.
That's it. One number at a time. We playing the long game.
No doubt.
A lot going on out here in these streets, out here in the traffic. You know, different stuff happening out here in the world.
Yeah, it's not different stuff. It's just a lot of, I would say more things now have come to light than ever. I think they've always been going on. It's just now people have more access to seeing behind closed doors what's really going on.
Pretty much the information age. You can get all the information at your fingertips.
By one click.
Pretty much. You got a smartphone. You can get access to news going on in Indonesia. You can find out who slept with who on somebody, whatever celebrity blog site. You can learn a foreign language for free with a translator app, that you can pick up at any of your little app spots, little app stores. You can pretty much get anything you want, information at the tip of your finger, and it's just coming at us now. How much of it is brand new information? Like how much of it is that we just hearing about it all the time versus what's new?
Yes. Or was, as they say, what's fake news?
Oh, Donnie T.
Donnie 45.
45. Code 45. Man. Don't let the smooth taste fool you. And so, speaking of Donnie T, his cabinet, old Donald J. Trump, the 45th elected president of these here United States, his man that he put in, good old Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben Carson, he out there, he in charge of, what they got him at, HUD? Yeah, housing and urban development. And, this is a man who was a genius neurosurgeon.
But he's now the head guy in HUD.
Two fields that have absolutely nothing to do with one another. And let's talk about old Uncle Ben. And he was giving, a talk where he was addressing, the hardships that immigrants face coming over here to the land of milk and honey. And he was addressing Africans as immigrants. Mm. That, we were immigrants that came over that worked for less.
Enslaved Africans.
Were immigrants that came over and worked for less. I like to quote...
enslaved Africans.
Quoting Angela Rye, a woman who I have so much profound respect for. I love this woman. Angela Rye, she got even T-shirts printed up. She's like, we built this joint for free. And to even make the argument that an African slave is the same as a Polish immigrant is not only ignorant, asinine, but is extremely disrespectful.
Well, you know what? I think that in the same sense of what Uncle Ben Carson continues to try to do is smooth over what the enslavement of our ancestors was really, Yeah. Just like in the history books, they when you read it, and if you think about it, when we used to go to school back in elementary, middle school, whatever, high school too, that they generally marginalize how enslavement of our people really was. It was almost kind of like, well, only enslaved people were the bad blacks that were being taken away, or the ones that need to be tamed. It was almost like this
savages.
Not only savage, but it was almost kind of like a story of redemption. You know what I'm saying? In a sense of where America, saved the slaves from this undeniable disease-ridden African country.
Well, since we're talking about learning in school, let's also preface that properly. There's no longer African slaves in the school books. Where Africans now are referred to as immigrant workers.
Wow.
So if you got young kids right now, if they're in the And then the daycare side of the game, like they're not even in the preschool. By the time they get through full elementary school,
they call them immigrant workers.
African immigrant workers. So if you're the new textbooks out of Texas, they just wrote the new curriculum. So the history books are saying that there are no longer African slaves. They're immigrant workers, which fits the narrative that old Uncle Ben was trying to spew when he was up there.
So there's a book right now that I could pick up in California that the kids are reading.
I don't know if they made it here yet, but they're based out of Texas, so they'll get here in time.
I've heard it.
So they'll get here, because once you get one state to say this is the new state curriculum for our districts and schools, it's not like they were like universities where you can get some credits in California, but if you decide to go to LSU, it doesn't quite hold up. But there's certain bases that are the same. When it comes to like K through 12 elementary, there's some kind of core stuff that's universal across the board. Yeah. So you've got Texas who said this is the new campaign. Then you'll get Oklahoma, you'll get New Mexico, you'll get California will be one of the last ones and try to barter a little bit because it's a little more on the liberal side as a state. So they speak. Well, as opposed to Texas, it's a thin line. Yeah. It's not the Grand Canyon divide. But so that we'll probably be one of the later states. But if you get enough small ones, you can't have 19 states teaching history curriculum one way, and then all of a sudden the other ones, sticking to the old ones, and then a handful of other ones teaching when the new books come out, them holding on to something else. At some point, it's going to become uniform. Yeah. So the fact that they got Texas on board, you're going to get all those surrounding states, and it's just a matter of time before it comes to a state near you.
That is crazy, bro. Like, I know and I heard about it, but I didn't really think it was taking a real life of its own. And again, I have no problem with it if they handed over our reparations. You want to talk that it was slave immigrants? Fine, cool. Run me my check, but they ain't gonna do that.
Settle up first, and you can call me what you want.
Exactly. I mean, because to me, it's asinine and it's blasphemy that you would speak upon the enslavement of millions of Africans and how long it perpetuated and what it remains to be the lasting effects of it currently. And now you want to pretend as if, because America again wants to have this shining image of we can't do no wrong.
Well, let's put this, because there are some people, depending upon where you are in America and depending upon what you've been exposed to in your life, you equate slavery to being really, really strenuous work conditions and dealing in a really abusive relationship. Yeah. Like if you're of African descent, we have a different interpretation, which is called the truth. Yeah. But if you're not, that's typically if you ask people, well, what was slavery? Well, black people were whipped to pick cotton. Like that's kind of what you worked as a slave in the house, or you picked cotton in the field. Let's put this all into perspective so you can understand how truly disrespectful this stuff is to equate an African slave to an immigrant worker. If you came over we talk about the conditions of Mexicans that come over and who are working for $2.50 an hour under the beating sun for 13, 14 hours a day, pennies, what they pay American citizens for. Here's the huge difference. And for future reference, you can take this with you, put it in your pocket, put it in your suit, put it in your purse, your attaché case, whatever.
Uncle Morris is about to take them on a history ride.
Whatever, yeah. This is a very important piece and why you could, after hearing this, you should never, ever in life equate African slavery to any other situation that when it pertained to what happened on this here U.S. soil. No other group of people were treated the way that African slaves were treated. No other group of people where they took the men, put them in the middle of the town square, and the ones that seemed a little ornery, the ones that had a physical presence, the one that could be potential leaders, were stripped down in front of town squares and raped by the male slave owners to break the spirit of not only the man, but the women who looked up to him and the other men who had been inspired by him.
They don't talk about that.
But I'm saying, so when you start talking about let's equate the two, they don't happen. There's no other group that happened on U.S. soil where they were led on town gatherings, where they took postcards and people had family days and events where they had public lynchings of men, women, and children in the middle of the town that they had cotton candy and hot dogs and popcorn for.
They don't talk about that.
They sit there and where they would take and purchase young girls and 10, 11, 12, rape them repeatedly or send them off to males to have sex with who were 20, 22 years old so they could start breeding, getting these girls pregnant at 11 years old so they could produce a whole plethora of various slaves to run their plantations.
They don't like to talk about that.
So when you start talking about being an Irish immigrant, an Italian immigrant, an Asian immigrant, an Hispanic immigrant, the reason why the struggles are not the same is because the struggles aren't the same.
They definitely don't want to talk about that.
So taking that into consideration, that is why it's extremely disrespectful and so wrong on the part of Uncle Ben to even try to equate the two stories and say that an African slave who was brought over, chained to the bottom of the boat and stacked up like dominoes on body on top of body, where if you looked even halfway sickly, they refused to feed you because they didn't want to waste the food on a slave who wouldn't survive the trip.
You about to have me want to punch somebody in their face that's a pale-skinned person right now, man.
Well, there's a reason why I'm setting all this up. So now, knowing if you're not of the community and you don't know the history, this is not giving you a pass. This is a degree of understanding. What it means is that if you are of the group, if you play for the team, if you got a jersey, and you do know some of this history, it's why it's that much more important and crucial that we stand together, look out for ours, and protect ours. Because when we have people like Uncle Ben as our quote-unquote representative, and he's spewing that nonsense, other groups will believe, well, that's their guy.
Yes.
Like that's their dude. It's not Donnie Trump up there spouting this stuff. This is one of their guys.
Yeah.
And if he's saying it, it must be true. So representation for us as a community, who stands up and who's our voice? The people who not only stand up at the podium or stand up on the microphone, but those who stand up on the block, those who stand up in the community, those are the ones who are there for the children, for the women, because we're having issues out here. We're catching hell in these streets. And my question is where they at though?
We are being misrepresented in so many ways, and particularly in social issues. And thank goodness for a lot of the beautiful, powerful black queens that have been definitely a defining standard on certain things to raise awareness about, right? Definitely there's some men, but for the first time in a long time, it's really been a woman-driven in a lot of things.
Sure.
And a lot of young, youthful driven I think, actions and movements. But in the same sense, I think looking at, because there's always been women in the fold of every powerful movement, there was also some real deep, uncompromising, regardless of how you felt about it, males that wouldn't move for ish. And right now, brother, a man nowadays, you can pay a Negro a penny and the dude is going to tell you anything and anything about who and what you want to know. And I look at it right now, and I think we talked about it a little bit on the last podcast. There is no fear factor in the black backlash. They have no fear doing whatever they want to do with African Americans, while our girls are missing, while they can talk ish to our congresswomen, while they can sit there and really be disrespectful because Negroes, and I'm talking about the Negro men don't move an inch. All we like to do, a majority of these Negroes like to coon it up. Period.
So hitting on them points that you brought up briefly about our Queen Maxine Waters.
Wow.
A person who's been in the political circle since the 70s. When it comes to civil service, I believe she got in the game like around 71.
Yep.
And so, like deep in the streets, and was just completely disrespected by Bill O'Reilly,
who constantly is disrespecting, who is also considered, in my opinion, a sexual predator. Go ahead.
And so she was kind of giving a rebuttal to a situation, and after she made her point, his reply was, I couldn't hear, I didn't even hear a word she said because I couldn't get past her James Brown wig, like referring to her hair and completely just disregarding and disrespecting her point and the validity of her statement.
Yeah.
And that sort of stuff is because, like you said, there's no black backlash.
No, there's not.
There's no there's no sponsorship checks that are going to get light. There's no advertising issues. There's no
major boycott.
Nothing. And going back to also what you said about our girls are missing, all the issues in Washington D.C. where all these black and brown young girls have been coming up missing.
Yeah.
Put this in proper context and framework. We are in whenever you hear this, we're at the end of March, beginning of April, calendar wise. So that's important for this number. So in 2017, for just 2017, we're in the first quarter. There's already over 500 missing young people, young women who've come up missing in the greater DC area for 2017.
500?
500. Now, here's something to take into consideration and why this is important. If your geography isn't straight or you've never visited, there's less than 700,000 people in Washington, D.C.
So you're saying right now, let's back it up for a second. Let's back it up. You're trying to tell me that in 2017,
not from January of 16 to 2017. We're talking about from January 1st. Of 2017
to right now,
to give or take the last 7 days,
there's been 500.
There's roughly 500 missing folks, missing black and brown young women to girls in the greater area.
And this is fake news or this real?
This is real news, and that's why they were talking about the dozen that was missing on the weekend.
Yeah, okay, but now I think that was fake news, right?
Okay, well, not fake news. So when you say missing, that's a loose term.
Yeah.
So missing basically just means unaccounted for.
Yes, sir.
So that's everything from I'm staying at Jamie's house, but really I'm sneaking over to my boyfriend Craig, whose parents are and you go to Jamie's and she ain't there, and so now you don't know she's at Craig's house. There's that. There's I can't take this no more.
I'm running away.
Yeah. There's I'm gonna go to LA and be a star.
Yeah.
And there's, hey, little girl, want some candy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, these are all these things.
Or, hey, little girl, I can help you be a star.
Along with, she took too many pills and we couldn't wake her up. Like, this is all these things that go into play that go into missing. So that's why the number, so when you hear the number, you take all those things into consideration. You got runaways, you got suicides, you got homicides that are unfound yet or unclosed.
But still, 500's a lot, yo.
It's a lot. So, and we're talking about black and brown. And these things are important because when I talk about representatives and I talk about where they at, though, where is the representative? These are not people who are, these are people who are just coming into the community. Take that number aside. When we talk about our women being disrespected, the sister who was put in a chokehold and dropped in the hair care salon. Was it down in South Carolina?
Yeah. I think I'm not too sure it was South Carolina, but I remember that. I know the whole.
Yeah, and so she got dipped by the person who was getting socked up and hit because she was allegedly stealing.
By the Asian guy.
By the Asian guy. When you've got old lady on the side of the street just getting worked over by the cop in a headlock in full HD from somebody's cell phone and in the middle of the day.
Or when the black girl got slammed in the classroom, or the black girl that got slammed and choked in Texas at the pool party.
Yeah, all these things that go on, there's no shepherd. You know what I'm saying? There's nobody protecting the flock. There's who do you go to?
And that brings up the situation of why when you talk about who you go to, you can still say, well, there's still Farrakhan, right? And would like to beg to argue about the validity or what he can really do at his age and how much in the nation is covering the individuals that have been these victims and what they're doing. And I'm sure I saw one of the papers that they had. I mean, they're definitely speaking truth to power about the incident as the DC police try to, I think, make light of the situation.
Yeah.
It just brings me to look at how and why we've gotten so far away from the man protecting the village. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying. I'm not even on the fair, not even that far away. I'm talking about in the community, in the neighborhood. Like the idea, and you said it perfectly. There's no fear of black backlash.
Yes,
you can come into a community, you can come into a neighborhood, and you could put hands on the girl. You could put hands on the elderly,
and you can walk out.
Yeah.
And when you look at it, the one thing that we had before, when we were necessary, was the black dollar and our spending power. When you look at back and you go further back to the Alabama the boycott in Alabama.
Okay, the
bus boycott, right? And how it was like over 365. They weren't going to the bus. They were figuring it out, and then finally, the people had to come to a conclusion. Like, we need blacks on the bus, and we're gonna figure this out, and let's come to the table.
Yeah.
Now, like, it's a joke, though. Like, they don't. The Negro is such in pocket that they don't even have to worry about backlash. They don't have to worry about it because it's not going to happen. Well, even though it could happen, but it's not going to happen.
Let's take away the economic side. Because if you go across the nation into a predominantly Asian area, and you being not of that group, not being Asian, and you walk in and start hanging around, touching a 6-7-year-old girl, good luck making it home.
Yeah.
You get in there and touch up the elderly.
Good luck.
Go into a Latino community,
yeah,
and start messing with their elder women, and see if you make it home. See if Javier and Miguel don't come see you.
But here's the thing. We have to say, and going back to the Asian attack on the black girl, the Negroes did step up and showed up. And, the nation came, as well as, I think, one of the preachers came from the local area. They came together and they went in, I don't know if it's the NAACP one. Somebody came, they came, and they made amends. But that doesn't happen often enough. That doesn't happen in a sense of where do we go to create the change. We don't even have a narrative to create for ourselves because we don't have literally any real news outlet. I mean, we have TV One that has a few, a newscast, but there's nothing as consistent as CBS, as a CNN, as all the other NBCs, ABCs, all these different networks that continue, Fox News, that continue to create whatever narrative, create whatever imagery that they want, and the domination of white supremacy, it continues to hail over everything else. So when you look at the content of where are these Negroes are sitting at the table of white supremacy, like Ben Carson, and being okay with whatever ideology that the supremacists of this system want to put out there for Black America.
Yeah, because the real why I brought the Asian culture, the Latino culture, whatever. It's not if you go into an Asian area community, a Latino community, and you start messing with their kids, their women, it's not going to be an economic boycott. Like, they're going to have something for you.
It's going to be blood. Blood's going to be
exactly. Like, there's not that fear of repercussion messing with black people.
Not at all. Like I said,
you know what I mean? Like,
literally, bro. That's why when you go back to when, quote unquote, they said that there were some rogue Negroes shooting police officers, I'm not buying that.
Yeah.
I'm not buying that narrative, because trust me when I say that, if it was real to the capacity of how they created it,
yeah.
Well, why aren't all these cops getting plugged right now? Why is Dylan Roof still alive? He's still breathing. Why is George Zimmerman walking around being able to say whatever he wants to say whenever he wants to say it? Like, it's not real. Because if that was the case, and when they start creating that idea of, the blues are getting attacked and all this other craziness. It's like, dude, who are you fooling? Who are you kidding, man?
Let's put this in the like really put it out there, because since we saying something about it, because we are not for the team like that.
Not at all.
Like, because this to me is something I was thinking about the other day.
Not at all.
And I thought about it, and as I worked it through in my brain, it made me kind of pause, and to a degree made me disgusted. So here's the thing. If you ask anybody right now, most brothers in the barbershop, on the corner, whatever, how do you feel about Kobe Bryant? You know what they call it? What's the first word that comes to mind?
One of the greatest of all times, Black Mamba.
As a man.
Oh, he's...
Snitch.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Not as a ball player, but you said, man, with that kind of dude.
Okay.
Like, you'll hear a lot of time, oh, man, nah, man.
Snitch, rapist.
He's snitched. He told on Shaq. Nah, I can't mess with him. You know, once you snitch, always a snitch. He's a punk. He's all these different things that are said about him. I'm like, okay, so we going to hold on to that. Like that's what we going to hold on to in a person. But Kobe Bryant's going to be a snitch forever for an event that happened in 2003. But the dude who sells poison to our kids can come back. The dude who's caught domestic cases, he can come back. The rapist can come back. The elderly abuser can come back. The child molester can come back.
I don't know if the child molester.
No, here's why this is the part that made me disgusted. Because that's the first thing that we'll say as a community. Nah, we don't do that. We don't do that.
We do that.
I'm saying. How many family reunions, outdoor cookouts, or weddings have you heard "Step in the Name of Love"?
Oh, brother,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah, we'll let him back.
I will. Yeah, in that content, but in a sense of in the home. No, remember, Mr. Uncle Kelly ain't touched one of mine, and that is the issue.
But in the home, Uncle Clarence just stay in the back bedroom at Grandma's house.
But Uncle Clarence, but again, in that sense of it, it's usually Uncle Clarence got a hold on Charlotte, and Charlotte ain't saying nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but when it does come out, Uncle Clarence is going to be thrown far away wherever he needs to go. In some cases, in a lot of cases, it is like that. Not enough at all. Clearly, but it goes into the sense of what I put out there, and people was crazy on my Facebook. Like, why are you saying this? I said, I'm beginning to think that there's more pedophiles than there are protectors in the black community. And I stand by that statement. Why? Because of what we're talking about.
That's what I'm saying. Uncle Clarence does not get ostracized. Uncle Clarence still stays at Grandma's house in the back bedroom.
Or he might not be at Grandma's house. He'll be with Auntie Lulu.
You know what I'm saying? One of the old school. One of the OGs in the family. And if you're young, you don't know why he's always back there. But if you're of age, you do. You know what I'm saying? He's not ostracized and sent to go away and don't ever come back here. Okay. We just gonna keep the kids away from him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like we don't. Well, except where are we? And when I mean we
bruh.
We ain't got the representation.
Nah.
We don't show up for each other in the community. And I think that's how we get Uncle Ben's. That's how we get Messy Jesse's. That's how we, And
here's the thing about when you talk about Messy Jesse. I was listening to some of his old school, 80s, I'm going to be the first black president. And he was so, radical, rebellious. And he was so to that step where I'm like, damn, he talking like how I'm talking. He said, we don't need a Republican. We don't need a Democrat. They need us. And his conversation ain't even clear like that.
Because he had an opportunity to go to the White House and bless the food before dinner. He had an opportunity to get that check for the Rainbow Coalition. He had an opportunity to be a global ambassador getting government checks and subsidies for whatever agenda he wanted to push. Yeah. The book deals, the TV shows, the all that.
He rode his wave.
He
rode his wave. He definitely rode his wave.
So he at some point it was like, am I out for people or am I out for Jesse?
Or at some point it's like, do you want to get a bullet, keep on pushing this agenda?
That too.
Or do you want to kind of live and sit back and still be able to tell your people what you need to tell your people, because the Negro has been so gullible.
That offer that you can't refuse.
The Negro has been gullible from the day they assassinated our leaders and from the day that we really believed that integration was the best thing for us.
Okay. So sticking with that, say something to that. So after integration, where we forfeited integration, if you to put it best, was not a coming together like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Integration was a corporate hostile takeover. So if you've ever, for listening wise, if you've ever seen what happens with a hostile takeover is that when I absorb you, we now play for the same team, only I absorbed you. We're not a 50-50 arrangement. You now become a part of me, not we're in this together. And so I think thought integration was PB&J.
Yeah.
That it was, well, we're going to take what we got, mix it with what they got, and we're going to create something new, and everybody's going to be good. No.
But what we screwed up on was, oh, no, you don't need to take that. We got backpacks for you. Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want their backpack. I want the, and so
you can come on.
Yeah. And we gave up everything that we had to be a part of the team and gave up all that. So then the do for self, the self-sufficiency by necessity was gone.
Yeah.
Staying home because you had to was gone.
Yeah.
When the administration came through and the government said, kick your man out, I'll be your sugar daddy, and sisters no longer needed men for economic support.
They was out of here.
And if he gets out of pocket, you can call your Uncle Sam, and I'll come and put him in the cufties and take him down to town. Yeah. Anytime he get out of pocket, you let me know.
No doubt. And the sense of entitlement, as if, because now I'm home here with Master, like a good house Negro, I am now going to embrace the fruits of the labor. You know what I'm saying? Like, I watch people, and the things that we used to do, we don't longer even want to partake in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We don't do our own nails, our own feet. We don't go and mess with the agriculture. We don't go out there trying to farm. There's only a few of farmers. We don't do the manual labor. There's not enough construction workers. We're not worried about that. It's like, we'll do and pay someone else to do that as if we are owed something. It's just crazy, man.
So now we've got our little girls and boys, because let's keep it quiet as kept. Our little boys is getting messed with too.
Yeah.
And we talk about protecting our young girls and the sisters that are coming up. They Uncle Clarence is touching Billy too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he putting his hands on Mikey too.
Yep.
And so,
for sure.
You know what I'm saying? And that for real. And so our youth is not being protected.
Women not being protected.
I'm even going to get to that part. Youth is not being protected or provided for adequately. We're trusting other people and systems to do the jobs that we used to do in-house. We're not standing up economically and supporting each other in business. These are the things that our representatives that make it to the big platforms aren't representing us.
Not at all.
They in pocket. They own the team. So
then the athletes and the entertainers, they're all pathetic.
I put them in the same boat as with Uncle Ben.
Silly Negroes.
They up there with Uncle Ben. So now, if you're in anywhere America, how do we start getting some of this back? Because we can tell where we're at right now. We're not going to get represented on the big scale. We can tell that anytime you flip on, we're either being killed, we're being prosecuted, persecuted. Our little boys and girls are just being snatched up. Like, and to everybody else, it's a click, it's an online click, or it's a quick 30 seconds of my time when I watch, but I move on because it's not happening to mine.
Yeah, for sure. I think that in the same sense that when you look at it overall, the stream of it, I believe that one, we need to stop giving so much attention. We need to stop supporting these Negroes. Like, we need to stop. Like, we spend a majority of our lives watching someone else do something that we may want to do. Whether I say the sports entertainers, we all put them in the same kind of category, or believing in that politician that comes to our community that looks like us, again, blackface, white intentions. And we have this belief that because he or she looks like me, that they will do right by me. And that's what's always been the case of people arguing about the Obama effect. And was it a good effect or was it a bad effect? We have to stop, like, because you may look the part, we have to watch if you play the part and stop pretending that everyone is for the black agenda and start checking. And that's what I do. On my platforms, as much as possible, I speak truth to power. I call it how I see it. And like I said, literally, I put up with the pedophile thing and the protector thing, and people really didn't understand how I was saying it and what I was aiming at. And I broke it down just like you broke down. If they're protectors, then why do our kids feel unsafe? Why do our queens feel unprotected? Our sisters feel so unprotected by the black man. It's ridiculous. And then why is it that with these girls being missing, no one of a power position in the black community is making it known that this is an epidemic nationally, not just in DC. You have women coming to speak upon it. I don't see the white feminists talking about it and having a march about it. What I'm doing is I'm going to have a community action / vigil to bring awareness September 2nd. And we're going to be in unity. And I hope I have some strong black men out here to show the sisters, okay, there are a few men that have my back, that are here. And I think that's what we need as a community, because when this cycle continues to happen over and over and over again, what do you think it's going to be like for us when we turn 55 and 65? If we don't protect the castle now, who's going to protect it?
Okay, well, great points. And there's something that they have that's called like you have consumer loyalty. You know, there's something that you wear Nikes because you've been wearing them. You know, you drink Pepsi because you've been drinking Pepsi. You know, whatever. And so, but whenever you get a bad taste about a product, you know what I mean? You don't mess with it anymore.
Yeah.
Well, so the same theory in the sense of if every time you went to this grocery store, the canned foods are dented, the labels are falling off, the bread is moldy, the produce is bad. If it's a bad experience every time you go, even if you don't shop there anymore for years and then you drive past one, you're going to have the same association. Yeah. So now if you're talking about people, well, if you grow up as a young girl and you look at the men in the area where either they were non-protective or they were the predator, even if you remove yourself from those people, every time you come across one or have an association to, you're going to go into that kind of negative thinking.
Yes, sir.
If you're a young boy and you grow up in that, and the dudes around there either ain't about-ish or once again they're predators, you kind of start taking up traits or start feeling a certain kind of way. All these things are fragmented to a community. Now, if you're older, like so our sisters who are grown now, you grow up with a history of the black men aren't reliable.
Or they're abusive.
So this is, if a situation goes down, this is not who I go to. You know what I mean? When it pops off, this is not who I call. And if you're of another community who's preying upon this group, you know they ain't nobody. Superman ain't coming. That bat signal been on for 4 months straight. I ain't seen one pointy ear in the shadows. You know, like you know he ain't coming. Yeah. Robin either. Like we can just run amok out here because ain't nobody coming to check.
Because the Negro is allowing people to be unchecked, and it's to the point where we need you, and they play off on that. Like even in the fact, like, okay, yes, the Asian man disrespected the black queen, but the Asian man disrespected the black community by having a Asian ran store with black product and feeling like he can talk, he can disrespect people coming in and out that store in their community any kind of way. The disrespect starts from right there. Like, how do you feel comfortable enough to come in the community thinking that you're gonna run it?
Because the basis, the railroad tracks have been set for so long that these people are not going to take care of themselves. So before anybody comes in, especially when you start talking about immigrants, so I think this is important to apply this as well. So they get narratives of what they think black Americans are like in other countries, yeah. TV, internet, whatever. Before they just move it, at the point where it's at now, when they get here with no firsthand experience dealing with one of us, it is already accepted that, well, they're not going to take care of their own. They're not going to protect their own. They're not going to sustain, provide for, or anything. You can move it. Like I've talked to some folks, Middle Eastern descent. They're told go into black neighborhoods to start.
Yeah.
Like they said, where do you want to make your money back? Go find an area that's predominantly black, because the building that you need, the shop you're going to set up, is going to be cheap, and that you're not going to have competition. And that even if another black person owned up, they don't go to it enough to run you out.
How is a Middle Easterner able to come, set up shop, and get supported by black folk? Black folk set up shop, do the same thing, and get deported out of his own community.
Because
crazy.
And the part to go along with it too. And first off, I'm not even going to knock the Middle Eastern person. I'm not saying you are. I'm saying for me.
Anyone in the sense of like with the Asians. That's why I never really made a big fuss about the whole thing, because I'm like, dude, they capitalized on a situation that we weren't willing to capitalize on.
So for the Middle Eastern guy that comes over from Iran, from Iraq, from wherever.
Can't be mad at him.
From whatever. So he's told, how do I make it in America? His cousin who's been here for 5 years tells him, hey, get you one of these shops in these all black neighborhoods. You gonna come up. Okay, that's what I did. I got 2 gas stations and 3, stores from doing. Okay, that's the blueprint. So I'm gonna move in here. I'm gonna set up my shop here. I'm gonna get my paper up, but I don't live here.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take the money from the people who live here, but I live 20 miles across town, where I want to live, in whatever neighborhood that looks like. So for us, it's like, at some point, we recognize the issues. Because I think if we have these one-on-one conversations, if we say something to us, and there's no real disagreement.
Yeah. But what do you do about the issue?
That's what I'm saying.
And that's the thing about it. When I say the self-entitlement comes in, the attitude like, well, Negro, we made it. We ain't going to do that. See, what it's funny about, I think, the Negro is like, yo, we want to own everything, but we don't want to work for nothing, right? So they see the Javier working at that corner store, and they're like, Javier's having to work at this corner store. Yeah. Not understanding, Javier owns that corner store. Yeah. So Javier, because he's like, well, shoot, I'm going to have to work somewhere. I'll rather work here at this corner store. That's not a glamorous job at all, right?
Stocking shelves, sweeping floors, all that.
It ain't glamorous. But I'm saving money by having me work it, right? And not having to worry about dealing with employees. I do whatever I want to do, and I'm going to shut down this liquor store at 9 or 10 o'clock and open it up as I may, and I get to set the rules. Yeah, I'm going to have to chase a few kids out, but no one is going to check me about selling poison. No one is going to check me about not having healthy food options. No one is going to disrespect me to the point I may have to every once around bring a few of my family members to quiet up the activities, because some of these brothers might try to do something, because I know these Negroes want to rob, but they ain't going to do enough to have me close down my store.
Sticking with that right there, that example, you got Muhammad, you've got Javier, you've got whomever who represents the corner store.
Wing Wong, you got to get them all.
That's what I'm saying. Well, I'm there to say before. Hell, even Jeffrey, whomever it is that was the corner store, Bradley and Tanner.
It ain't Tyrone and Andrea.
So the point is that, forget even it being a point of being checked on having, quality food, everything's flaming hot Cheetos and this, that, and the third. I know they're not about to open. Let's just keep it on the strictly on the business side of the game. I know that I'm not going to compete.
There's no competition.
I know there's not going to be. If there's another shop shows up, it's slanging the same stuff I got, and we're talking prices. But I'm not worried about the healthy juice spot moving next to me, the yogurt shop next to me, the farmer's market stand next to me there, and me having an issue making $1 because I don't sell a viable product.
Yeah.
It's like folks can move in. All I'm saying is that we recognize that we're not protecting. We're not providing. We're not doing for it.
We're not.
As much as we like to get all up and wild and yell and scream when somebody else says it about us. But what's the what now?
The what now is exactly what I'm doing, is bringing out awareness. Of course, you'll be out there with me on the state capitol. We're going to bring awareness about the things in D.C. and we'll probably touch in to a lot of how the framework is, because the conversation has to happen. See, we as the black community are afraid to have these conversations. We're afraid to talk about the pedophile. And I am one of those people. I don't listen to R. Kelly.
No.
I don't give two damns about his two-step. I love 12 play, but I won't listen to it. I'm not going to be in my moment of going through YouTube and I'm not tracing my steps behind R. Kelly, because at the end of the day, I can understand a mistake and I can accept the person being accountable, but it's almost as if you played the system, you paid your money, you got out, and now you're really going to try to honestly make us believe like you're not a predator, you're not a pedophile. You know what I'm saying? I know people in Chicago that before the story broke many years ago, they told me about it. As a matter of fact, I had a conversation with one of my sisters the other day, and she brought up the same high school my homegirl many years ago, a decade ago, was telling me about, that he used to go do his thing picking up girls in places he wasn't supposed to be. And I say that in content of, if we're not going to handle business with those in our community, and then when people, as we stated already, Dylan Roof, George Zimmerman, guys like on a lower end, because that was people that murdered our people. Bill O'Reilly can, whenever he feels like saying it, say something racist and then come back, I apologize. Or when the little white kid, rich class young boy, was ranting and raving and singing the N-word song in his fraternity bus, and then we sat by, stood by him and forgave. We are such a forgiving people to the point where, we are almost like I'm looking for the word for it, because it gets me so frustrated. We're almost like so dumbfounded that these motherfuckers are going to continue to wear us out because we have no fight back. The only time we have fight back, a true fight back, is against ourselves.
Okay. Why there's ever been another black student enrolled in Penn State is beyond me. Okay, Penn State. No. I'm just.
I was trying to think about another school. Like you say Penn State. Like, why did another L.A. Clipper ever play a Clippers game until Donald Sterling got out of there? You know what I'm saying? It's
here's the slight difference between us. If I'm just on my end. Because they just had another issue, like the trickle down.
Penn State?
Yeah, with the son of Sandusky, I guess, or one of his nephews, whatever.
I heard.
So you have an institution which systematically, like, we're not talking about one rogue dude. Yeah. Like, they got school buses, they went into neighborhoods, like they had a system for decades that were going into preying upon, sexually assaulting, molesting, and raping young black boys for years. Like, they were using that university, neighborhood facilities. It was on campus. Like, you have a system set up that scouts out, like you're looking for the new quarterback, that scouts out low-income neighborhoods, preferably single-parent households, that are telling the mothers that, yeah, we want to give your sons the college experience and let them see what a university looks like to inspire them to go to school. You're sending buses to their neighborhoods. You're picking these kids up, and you've got a system set up, systematically setting these kids up to be raped and molested on Penn State campus. After all that comes to light, dude gets convicted and goes to prison. Why another black person enrolled in a school that looked the other way? Because we're not talking about like, oh, this was some rogue dude we didn't know. A dude who wasn't even working for the school had an office. and access to facilities to rape and molest these boys on school grounds.
Was it my kid?
That's exactly it.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, like that's that, bro. I mean, was it my kid? Like, why are kids going to Baylor?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why is that? Like, how is Baylor in the conversation of national championships or NC tournaments? How was they even fighting to have Penn State? The reason why you weren't in that 4-team playoff is because some of the people on that committee board was probably thinking, we may want to kind of not want to deeply push Penn State just yet. You know what I'm saying?
They got a 4-year timeout, but
reduced.
What I'm saying, they got a 4-year timeout in an era where they weren't competitive.
Reduced, and it got reduced, bro.
But what I'm saying is that's like saying today that the Kings aren't allowed to play in the finals for the next 4 years.
Yeah, exactly.
You ain't going anyway.
Exactly.
So it's like, but to me, these are examples of why we
don't stand for nothing, dog.
Let that happen in another community.
We don't stand for nothing. But remember,
at this volume, at these numbers, I get it, and it's why I prefaced it with the history first.
Yeah.
That we come from a lineage and a history of these types of things, these separations, these atrocities that aren't present in any other group. Yeah. That's important information to know. Why our lineage is we're more fragmented than other groups.
Because I think that we want to protect the idea that the man is a protector. I mean, think about it. When Bill Cosby and preference, I know that it was pretty much a lot of BS on top of BS with a lot of it. But dog, I mean, let's come on.
Somebody got slipped a roof.
So, you know what I'm saying?
Maybe not 72 or whatever the number was, but somebody did.
Exaggeration for sure. But you saw the black community, and I understand we want to stand by our man.
Cliff Huxtable.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, if you see smoke, there's usually fire. And I'm not going to defend. First of all, I'm not going to defend a man that I've never had a conversation with.
Yeah, I don't know.
Secondly, I'm not going to defend a man that has thrown us under the bus. And I'm not going to defend a man that snitched on himself. Now you're trying to say court documents were jaded, even though I know the trickery of white supremacy. I know this. If you ever hear anything about Barry Accius, ever, as vocally as I am about everything, I don't say nothing and I start talking about no comment, you get worried.
Yeah. And so to me, I'm saying, well, we're at the point of saying, look, really saying something to us. To our group, to the men of our community, like it's bad. Like and really wrapping our brain around what is it that you gonna get up in arms about?
Well, let's not. I can't and we cannot. Just before, because
we're still good.
Yeah, we good with time. I don't want us to move away from the church. Right, because that's when some of these heathens,
some of the worst offenders,
and one just particularly died, Mr. Eddie Long, and you talk about
Bishop
why.
Eddie Longstroke.
Yes, you talk about why and how in the hell did someone ever go back to that church, even give money to that man after all the allegations?
And if you're not familiar with Bishop Eddie Long,
please break that down.
Because I get it between the Creflo Dollars and the TD. You may mistake names.
Yes.
So just as Creflo Dollar is the one that takes your money.
And TD Jakes is not dead for all that fake news that was coming out of that.
So Creflo is all about the Benjamins. But Bishop Eddie Longstroke, may he rest wherever his soul fell, was a person who was extremely vocal about anti-gay and lesbian activity. Yes. He was extremely vocal about how the atrocities of not even molestation, but just homosexuality.
Yes.
Like he led a protest, like led a formal protest out in the streets, parading the idea of how horrible homosexuality is in any way, shape, or form. Then came to find out
he could possibly be a homo himself.
He was out there trying to baptize little boys with his own holy water.
And you know what?
And it's not to make fun of, like, those are victims. Those young boys are victims. And the fact that he was using his presence, using his power, so to speak, of his influence over impressionable young boys, over leverage over the people who thought something was up or might say something, more so in the communities he was in. You know, I can ruin you. Like, I've got all these supporters behind me. Like, I can make some stuff happen. And he shut people up. He shut them down. Like I said, had the protesters sit there and say how horrible and an atrocity it is, and come to find out he was raping and molesting boys from the church.
Allegedly.
Oh no, he paid out. Like this.
No. But remember, paying out doesn't mean guilt. But he paid out. In a court of law, he never was charged.
He accepted responsibility civilly for these things that were exactly. These allegations that were brought.
I know.
Yeah. He was never found. There's no jail time.
Yeah.
He paid out because he accepted responsibility. He accepted liability. Accepted being liable for the cases that were brought before him. In any event, I ain't worried about what the court of law says. Your soul had to settle up one way or another when you cashed out. But in any event,
no, I was going to say, and that's why when you look at it, the heroes that you once had, you no longer have. Like, you can't even trust your own dad with your children. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't trust the reverend, your pastor with your children. You can't trust the teachers. I mean, I've had people I know that have got caught up with having sex with underage girls as teachers, man.
And underage boys. Because that's real too. There's a lot of women who's getting hands on your sons.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But see, that isn't as negatively viewed
socially.
Socially.
Does a lot of damage to that boy.
Though, you know, it is wrong. It is bad. And I think that a lot of take advantage of their power position.
Yep.
And for the life of me, with social media tracing all your steps, you send a text, and that same text you might have sent 3 months ago can come back to haunt you 2 days later. I really look at it as like, it's either people are really sick, people aren't really thinking, or people don't really give a fuck.
I think it's all the above. Because I think what happens out here is that we got folks who, there's no fence around the yard. There's no shepherd for the flock. Hell, there's no dog on the porch. Like, where we used to live when we grew up, there was this house at the corner used to have fruit trees. Like, they had plums in the bag, oranges, whatever. And you could just run up there, climb the fence, snatch it. We would fill bags full of it, during the summertime. Because the people didn't care, because when they would spoil, they would hit the ground, they'd be all over the pavement, whatever. So it was cool. There was another house, however, that had fruit. Big old, ripe, all kind of just craziness in the backyard. But they had a big-ass Doberman Pinscher. Now, no one even had a conversation with the house with the Doberman Pinscher. No one knocked on the door and asked, hey, is it okay if? Think it might be cool if maybe I can run and snatch one. It wasn't even a discussion because you knew that house was protected.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a debate.
Yeah.
The house that didn't have any place like that, we was exploiting all day, every day. Like, we would grab the bags that our parents would go grocery shopping in. We take the empty bags, walk down the street, and come home with full bags of whatever fruit we can, as high as we can climb, and take as much as we could take. And that's what's happening to us.
Yeah.
Our neighborhoods are getting picked clean.
Yeah.
Neighborhoods are getting exploited.
Yeah.
Because there's no guard dog.
And then the guard dogs that are guarding the system of white supremacy, the henchmen. And when you look at the last few years, and especially last year, just here in California, the sex scandal in San Francisco, the sex scandal in Oakland, these kind of things happening right underneath our noses, and they don't even get heavy run. They don't get heavy press. And then it's like sexual acts with these minors. Some of these minors are actually the ones that are on the streets, some of the runaways, some of the missing. Yeah. And then you hear about the same thing happening in D.C. And it's like there's a protection of men to do these acts, and these men of power, to where they cannot be checked. And people will be like, well, no, it's always the victim's fault. Like the victim becomes the criminal, and that's crazy.
We got too much going on to where our protectors have become our predators. We've got too much going on that those who are supposed to be minding the store, and supposed to be protecting the yard, is supposed to be that first line of defense for our women, for our children, for our community. For whatever reason, somebody's asleep at the wheel, somebody's not showing up to work, or somebody was paid to look the other way.
Definitely.
In any event, these are things that have got us into a situation where our community is
in disarray.
Is in disarray. Our women aren't protected, and they know it. Other communities recognize that there's no guard dog that's going to stop.
Yes.
They realize that there's no one, that Batman's not coming. You can shine that light in the sky as long as you want to. I ain't going to see no pointy ears. I ain't going to see no piece of no cape.
The Negro used to be feared. There was a fear factor. Now we're a running
punchline.
joke. We're a punchline to every joke.
And so these are things that we need to address.
And say something.
These are definitely things that we need to fix. And these are damn sure things we need to say something about.
No doubt. Dang. Yes, so April 2nd, it's going down. She could be your daughter. It's going down at the state capitol. We're gonna come out, man. We're gonna show solidarity with DC, and we're gonna raise awareness of what's going on, not only in DC, not only in San Francisco, Sacramento, just nationally.
So for not only this event, for other events, where can folks find you online?
Barry Accius, BerryAccius.
On Facebook.
On Facebook, and that's also Twitter. At Team Voy on Instagram, and of course blackblueprints.com, Black Blueprints with a Z.
I'm Jermaine Morris. Jermaine Morris on Facebook, all other social media platforms at JMorrisCEO. Bring another installment of this Say Something podcast. Here with the one and only Mr. Barry Accius.
Yes, sir.
And until next show, we'll holler at you later.
Say something.